Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing well. Now, before we get started with the video, don't forget to subscribe by clicking the bottom right hand corner. So it is official, Matt Riddle is coming to Friday Night Smackdown soon. It was rumoured for, I would say at least a week or so, that Matt Riddle would soon be making his main roster debut. By all accounts, it was in the works prior to WrestleMania, but then with everything that's been going on recently, that kind of got delayed. But the rumours of Matt Riddle coming to the main roster really started to ramp up in the last week or so. And then it was made official this past week on Friday Night SmackDown. We had a backstage vignette of Kurt Angle. This would have obviously been filmed in the last week or so. Kurt Angle, of course, was on last week's episode of NXT, refereeing the cage fight between Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher. And in the vignette, Kurt Angle puts over Matt Riddle, says it's a superstar a lot like him, and says Matt Riddle is soon coming to SmackDown. So as I mentioned, this last week on NXT, he faced Timothy Thatcher in a cage fight, the former NXT Tag Team Champions. Matt Riddle lost the match, and a lot of people thought that this was his NXT swan song. This was Matt Riddle doing the favours on his way out of NXT. And to be honest, I think it's the right time. I do think this is the right time for Matt Riddle to come to the main roster. He's been with NXT now for a couple of years, so he's certainly done his time, if you call it like that. Not that NXT is a prison sentence in the slightest. I think if you look at a lot of NXT superstars that have been called to Raw and SmackDown, they would say that actually the call-up to Raw or SmackDown is the prison sentence, and NXT is actually the time where they felt most free as performers in the WWE, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. But to be honest, I'm not really sure what there's left for Matt Riddle to do in NXT at this point. Yes, the counter argument to that point would be that Matt Riddle hasn't had a major singles title reign, but you look at the current landscape of the NXT singles male champions, and he just doesn't seem to really fit in there. Keith Lee is the current North American champion. He's got a feud going with Johnny Gargano, so Matt Riddle doesn't fit into the NXT North American Championship picture for, would see the foreseeable future. Matt Riddle, of course, has had matches against Adam Cole for the NXT Championship on NXT TV in the past. Was, of course, unsuccessful in that. So has he had his NXT Championship feud? Maybe. He certainly has feuded with the Undisputed Era in the past. He's faced the likes of Finn Balor on an NXT takeover. Plus, when you look at the NXT Championship at the moment, it looks like the Velveteen Dream could be the next NXT champion. So a babyface feud of Velveteen Dream versus Matt Riddle there doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, I would say. So in terms of the singles championships, there's not really a lot left for him to do in NXT, certainly for the time being anyway. And you don't want to have someone like Matt Riddle sort of spinning their wheels and losing momentum in NXT. Now, in terms of his accomplishments in NXT, he was a former NXT Tag Team Champion, of course. He won the Dusty Rhodes Classic with Pete Dunne, the Broserweights, and they had a great amount of momentum as a tag team. They were certainly over with the audience. They were certainly doing fun and entertaining segments, great matches, of course. But any momentum they had, of course, did die when the pandemic started to hit the rest of the world, and now Pete Dunne, of course, is stuck over in the UK. So they obviously had to improvise with that storyline. Timothy Thatcher had to step in. And they did the split that I think would have been inevitable with Pete Dunne anyway. That Timothy Thatcher spot, that cage fight, would have eventually been between Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne. I have no doubts about that. So apart from a Pete Dunne, Matt Riddle reunion, what is there left for him to do? And if you really wanted to do the Pete Dunne, Matt Riddle reunion, who knows if and when that can happen. Pete Dunne's well known to be over here in the UK at the moment. Even though he had moved to the US at one point, he is back over here at the UK, and travelling between countries is incredibly difficult at the moment. And we just don't know when Pete Dunne's going to be back over on the NXT brand in the US. A lot like with any of the UK-based talent. You think of Jordan Devlin as well. So You can't wait around for that kind of situation in terms of Matt Riddle. So I think it's the right time. I think it's the right move for Matt Riddle. And like I said, this has been in the works for a while. The plans for Matt Riddle go back to go to Raw or SmackDown, specifically SmackDown in this case, I guess, go back to even before WrestleMania. So they've been in the work a while. And as far as him debuting on SmackDown, apparently all these vignettes are already filmed and ready to go. Obviously, we saw the first one with Kurt Angle on Friday Night SmackDown, but by all accounts, there's more in-depth vignettes that have been recorded and are ready to go. So it's inevitable. It's inevitable, and I'm looking forward to the vignettes. I'm cautious about his run on the main roster, if you want to call it the main roster now, for a few reasons, and I'll get into them now. We heard about Matt Riddle's clashes with the likes of Goldberg and Brock Lesnar backstage when he's been at WWE events in the past. That stems, of course, from his social media comments. We've heard about him wanting to retire Brock Lesnar. In Brock Lesnar's last match of his career, we've talked about and we've heard about Matt Riddle's, I don't even know how to describe it, distaste, contempt, whatever you want to call it, for Bill Goldberg and Goldberg's matches. And that has, at some points, kind of come back to bite Matt Riddle, not in terms of his booking on NXT, but when he has been backstage at these WWE shows. He famously clashed with Goldberg at SummerSlam last year, if you want to call it a clash. It was picked up by the cameras. You've also heard the stories of Brock Lesnar last year at the Royal Rumble. Basically, just say to Matt Riddle, it's not happening, keep my name out of your mouth, etc., etc. Now, that Brock Lesnar-Matt Riddle story also coincided with Matt Riddle's run in the Royal Rumble this year. Now, Matt Riddle was a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble. He came out, but his run was very, very short. I think, did he eliminate anyone? He may have eliminated one person, got a few moves in, but then he was eliminated very quickly by King Corbin. Now, some questioned if that was being buried, which I don't think it was, or if he had heat due to the comments that he'd made specifically about Brock Lesnar in the past and the altercation he had with Brock Lesnar earlier that day at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. So you would have to think if he is going to be a success on the main roster, he's going to have to play the political game a bit more carefully, which really isn't Matt Riddle's forte. You look at some of his comments on social media about other guys in the past, he's not been shy about it, especially when it comes to Goldberg, especially when it comes to Brock Lesnar. He's had interactions with the likes of Chris Jericho and Booker T on social media also, saying, what is it with these WCW guys? So I think he would have to be slightly careful with that. But in terms of those two men, specifically Lesnar and Goldberg, you look at it at the moment, Brock Lesnar's on Raw, and Matt Riddle's on SmackDown, and Goldberg's gone, and it doesn't look like Goldberg's coming back anytime soon after that disastrous run earlier this year and the stories about creative control at Super Showdown in Saudi Arabia. So maybe Matt Riddle's in the clear when it comes to those two names. Who knows? But there is no doubt in my mind that Matt Riddle has rubbed some executives the wrong way. I have no doubts that some people higher ups in WWE will be looking at those social media comments, those interactions with the likes of Goldberg and Lesnar backstage, and will say, oh, he's disrespectful, he's not respecting the elders of the business, etc., etc. So I am slightly worried about that element. But that's not the thing I'm most worried about when it comes to Matt Riddle on SmackDown. My biggest worry with Matt Riddle on SmackDown is the worry if Vince McMahon will, I'm doing air quotes when I say this, get Matt Riddle. You know, that whole character that Matt Riddle has, and I say character, it's kind of him in real life, isn't it? But that whole, you know, bro, do I want to say the word stoner vibe, but the original bro is just something that I'm not sure I can imagine a 70-year plus Vince McMahon getting, if that makes sense. And I know people say, well, he wouldn't call him up for no reason, etc., etc. But I look back to a character that I think similar in the likes of Rob Van Dam, and look at how hard RVD had to work to get a solid push in WWE. Now, again, people's response to that will be, well, RVD, he's an Intercontinental Champion, he's a WWE Champion, etc., etc. But you look at that first few years when RVD came into WWE/WWF at the time, RVD was just about as over as anyone on the roster in 2001, 2002, 2003. And they always flirted with him in the main event, or flirted with him becoming a world champion. I think of his feuds with Triple H specifically in 2002 for the world championship, but he never got that WWE championship or WWE world championship run until all the way in 2006. And was that just because ECW was coming back? And I worry that is Matt Riddle going to have that same kind of struggle in getting the higher-ups to believe in his character, believe and understand, more importantly, his character that he presents. But on the counter side of that, Bruce Pritchard, the executive director of Smackdown, has mentioned several times that he was a big fan of Matt Riddle. I think if you go back and listen to some of his early podcasts, Something to Wrestle, especially on those Q&A episodes, he mentioned several times that he was a big fan of Matt Riddle, and even spoke about that WWE should consider signing Matt Riddle before they even signed Matt Riddle. So given that he is the executive director of SmackDown, and it's well known his relationship with Vince McMahon, and he does have a huge influence on Vince McMahon, I can almost see where this push is coming from. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a big Bruce Pritchard project. He's been known to be a big fan of Matt Riddle in the past and has been vocal about it. So perhaps that is something that is a positive in Matt Riddle's corner when it comes to this debut on SmackDown. Maybe Vince McMahon himself might not understand the whole original bro gimmick, but maybe someone like Bruce Pritchard is fighting his corner and saying, look, this guy, not only is he great in the ring, but his character's great. He can do comedy, but he can also be serious. I think that's where the most critical and vital thing of the success of Matt Riddle's run on SmackDown is going to come from, is finding that balance between the comedy and between the seriousness of Matt Riddle. Because it's well known that on a Raw or a SmackDown, something that has Vince McMahon's fingerprints all over it, if you show that you have the slightest hint of comical timing or the slightest hint of a comical aspect to your character, that's what Vince McMahon will go with. That's just it. John Moxley talked about it in the past. He said that once Vince McMahon knew that he had comical timing or could have a one-liner or could be slightly funny or something of that nature, it was just always comical lines. It was always wacky stuff. It was always this. It was always that. And I worry if Matt Riddle has a segment where he overdoes the bro or he overdoes some of the comic stuff, then suddenly he's been turned into a comical character. Whereas you have to strike the balance between Matt Riddle being this comical, funny guy, making people laugh and be entertained with the whole bro stuff, with the sandals or the flip-flops or the bare feet or whatever, but you then have to strike up that perfect balance between he is a former MMA, UFC star, he is a legitimate badass, he is great in the ring, and he could legitimately kick the crap out of you if he wanted to in a second. That's what's been so great about his NXT run, is they've certainly found that perfect hybrid of both the comedy side and both the serious side. And sometimes on the Raw or SmackDown roster, that is a difficult medium ground that they struggle to find a lot more often. So I worry about that also. In terms of his first feud on SmackDown, I think the first feud logically would be King Corbin. The reason as to why, if you look at what King Corbin is doing at the moment, he's kind of, for someone that was feuding with Roman Reigns forever, I can't believe that feud's not going on now, even with Roman Reigns not in the WWE at the moment. That feud just would never die. But Corbin also had that feud with Elias going through WrestleMania and out of WrestleMania. But it would appear that that feud's seen a conclusion now. And look, whatever your feelings are about King Corbin, he has been a major player on the show and they've invested a lot of time into him. So for him to not have a feud just doesn't make a lot of sense at the moment. And it doesn't appear that King Corbin's got any sort of real feud going on at the moment. And then you also look at the history of Matt Riddle and King Corbin. And of course, I mentioned Matt Riddle's Royal Rumble cameo earlier this year, the very quick cameo. But who was the person to eliminate Matt Riddle from the Royal Rumble? That, of course, was King Corbin. He eliminated him did the whole bro hand signals and all of that stuff. So I think that'll be a good first feud for Matt Riddle. Also, when you think about who King Corbin has been feuding with the last sort of 12 months, 9 months on WWE, Matt Riddle coming in and getting a victory over King Corbin straight away would certainly elevate him to a status in the casual fan's mind of being like, okay, this guy's come straight in. The people that haven't seen Matt Riddle on NXT, and regardless of what you say, there will be people like that. Just look at the viewing figures alone. SmackDown's getting over 2 million just every week at the moment on television, whereas NXT's between the 500 to 700,000 ratio numbers. So there's going to be people that haven't seen Matt Riddle. They don't know him. They haven't experienced him. They might have heard the name of social media, of course, as that what it is in the modern day. But they need to be introduced to him, and him coming in and beating someone who is established like a King Corbin straight away, that would certainly open people's eyes on the caliber of athlete that Matt Riddle is. But finally, I think it's a great move for Riddle. I'm happy to see him on SmackDown. I'm happy to see him get his chance in the WWE. Like I said, I have my reservations about if the people in charge and the higher ups truly get Matt Riddle and they get his character and they can do Matt Riddle justice. But hey, let's think optimistically. I think if anyone can make it work, it'll be Matt Riddle. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for him on Friday Night SmackDown, especially on a big platform of network television like Fox. But what do you think about Matt Riddle soon to be coming to Friday Night SmackDown? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Would you have liked to see him stay in NXT a bit longer, or is this the right time? Who would you like to see him feud with on SmackDown, and what do you think he can achieve on the main roster in WWE? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to WrestleNews 365 on YouTube. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner now, or if you wait a few more seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Or you can go to our channel, look at all of our videos we've uploaded to YouTube there, and subscribe to us there also. You can also follow us on social media. All of the links are on the screen now. Twitter, that's at 365wrestle. Facebook and Instagram at WrestleNews365. If it's on social media, we're on it, so be sure to give us a follow. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you've come across this video today, and I'm sure I'll speak with you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.